All right. 1, 2, 1, 2. There we go. Hello, everyone. Everybody, come on in. Take your seats. Is there anybody out there? Thank you so much for coming. This is a day. This day, everything I wanted to happen today actually happened. The weather was beautiful. Everybody I needed arrived. Everybody sounds great. And I'm really glad to have you here. We are going to let you in on a bit of a secret. Some of you are already aware of what we're doing. We've been working on this for over a year, putting together this amazing story that some people think they know, and I will bet you don't. Even if you're from Philadelphia, even if you've lived in this area your whole life, I would be very surprised if you know the true story of William and Hannah Penn. And this is the second time in my life that I have blindly stumbled across a great unknown historical figure. And the first one was when we did Amazing Grace on Broadway. It was an odyssey to get this story of John Newton, which people had largely forgotten. He was known to abolitionists. Anglicans knew who he was. But the rest of the world forgot this person who was instrumental in sort of blowing apart the slave trade as it existed then. And people from Bucks County, from this area, joined together. One of our first investors, two of our first investors, Bob and Joni Campbell, are here tonight. And people like them joined together with us and built a show that actually went to Broadway. Now, it's kind of fitting that we're here in Bucks County. We are probably less than a mile and a half from Oscar Hammerstein's house, where all this amazing theatrical, creativity was just overflowing. And Stephen Sondheim, of course, lived a little further and went to the George School. And then, of course, Christopher Durang, who won a Tony Award in the last decade, lives right around here too. So it's something in the water. I don't know. But some of the young people that you are going to see tonight, some of these people I am convinced will be on Broadway. And several of them. There's that much talent in this area. And I think it's because there's that much belief in this area, in the arts and in creativity and in investing in young people and the next generation. When we were on Broadway on opening night, if you opened the program, you went and you saw, the front page, and then you saw who was in it. And then if you went to the next page, it had a list of names in two columns, just name after name after name in no particular order. And they were the people that originally believed in Amazing Grace through the years that made it possible. Of those names, more than 90% live within a half-hour drive of where we are right now. That's how much faith in the arts exists within this one little area. And I've longed to tell a story here in my city, in my region. We went to New York, and New York's the place for theater, but we're the city of brotherly love. And for all, generations, people haven't understood what that meant. That's what this story is about. That's the story of Hannah and William Penn. So we're going to play you a couple songs. We're going to perform a couple songs for you. I'm just going to narrate a little bit so you know what's happening. Now, Penn, a New Musical, is a very vibrant, dramatic, and almost combative show. We have trials in prisons and people arguing and all sorts of the real events that happened to make our nation what it became. We're just going to show you just a little smidgen, and we're going to start with the central problem, the central question that our show would come down to, and that is, can this ever work? Is it really possible to take people of all different faiths, all different races, all different backgrounds, and put them together and actually have them not kill each other? Is that just crazy? And people think, the melting pot, they think New York City. No. New York City was a very stratified hierarchical society. It was Philadelphia where the rules were thrown off, and basically William Penn's huge idea, his world-changing idea, was this simple. If you are not free to disbelieve, you can never have faith. You can never have true faith. You can never know if it was yours. And he lived in a world where that was just crazy. And he built this place. And when we begin, and he goes through a life of tremendous, it's not a comedy. It's a lot of struggle. And when our show opens, he's on a bed, paralyzed. His life is right at the end. And his wife, Hannah, is there as he's dying. And she has a choice. And this actually happened. The Crown did not like Philadelphia. They did not like Pennsylvania. They did not like what happened. The king made a real mistake in sending William Penn here because he basically lit the fuse on the American Revolution. So the Crown wants the colony back. And they go to Hannah, who tonight will be played by Taylor Mitchell, and the Crown representative says, listen, you've lost your fortune. You've lost your reputation. It's a failure. People are at each other's throats. It's never going to work. Go to your husband's side. Take his hand in your hand. He's paralyzed, remember. And forge his signature on this piece of paper, and the colony will go back to England forever. And she knew that if she did that, all of the freedoms that they had worked for over the decades would be wiped away. And the frame in which we watch this story is that one moment. And there's not many points in history that you can say it all came down to this moment. It really did. It came down to this moment. Because if she had made a different decision, we would live in a very different world. So let's go into the world of the show for a moment. And Hannah is there, and she has this crushing decision. And she asks whether this dream that they created can ever be reborn. Let's give a hand to Taylor Mitchell.
Holding on for just a moment more, our time within the sun, when everything we've done seemed to matter. When you and I have gone, what will we leave behind? And will the world remember all the things we tried for, cried for, died for? Is there a way a dream can be reborn? And is there time to find a rose among the thorns? Can I believe enough to make it true without you? Without you? The years roll by like autumn leaves, they fly until the restless winter fills the endless sky, and we are left to wonder, never knowing why. wants me to care. He'll have to show me now, show me how to dare to believe that there's a way a dream can be reborn, and there is time to find a rose among the thorns. Can I believe enough to make it true without you? Without you, can I finally find a way to see this through? And when our children think of all we've done, will they know that their journey's just begun? Can they believe enough to make it true without you? Without you, will they ever see this dream reborn?
That orchestration was done by Dr. Matthew Sampson, right here in the front row. And Dr. Joseph Ohrt is our other partner in crime in all of the music. We should. By the way, this is Taylor's barn. We should thank Laura and Corey Mitchell for letting us use their barn. Where are you guys? There they are. Thank you. What a beautiful night and a beautiful place to do this. I want you to hear the people from the Central Bucks West Choir. So let's bring out the Central Bucks West Choir. A lot of Penn is about loss and how you deal with it and how it either breaks you or it fuels you. Now, William Penn had a very tumultuous relationship with his father. His father was an admiral in the Royal Navy, and he wasn't just any old admiral. He was one of the key admirals. He basically got the throne reinstated after Britain said, no more monarchs, no more, no. This man, William's father, basically made the reinstatement of the crown happen. And the king knew it. And that's actually why Pennsylvania ever happened. The king was supposed to pay William's father back, and he didn't do it. He sort of welched on his debt and said, no, you get all this land over in here, which was, a bunch of woods, and he said, we're going to call it Pennsylvania. And William said, no, I don't want it to be named after me. And the king was sort of like, you dope, we're naming it after your father, not you. When William's father died, this created a crisis in his life, as it does for any son. And because his father was a very famous admiral, they had a huge funeral for him. And this song, this is called Hymn for the Fallen Sailor. This isn't an actual song from back then. This is a new piece that I wrote, Dr. Ohrt orchestrated or put together for choir. And this is a new arrangement that you'll hear tonight. And this is William the Elder's funeral and one of the key moments in William Penn's life, Hymn for the Fallen Sailor.
The noble sailor on his final journey into the deep, past the threshold of eternal sleep, his spirit at peace, waiting for that trumpet call, which beckons all to come before God's throne. And he will rise again in glory. He will sail upon the sea. He will stand before the Lord and receive his just reward. Now at last his soul is free. But now we know that we must carry on until we ourselves are gone to the place which God prepares. And we will rise again in glory. We will sail upon the sea. We will stand before the Lord and receive our just reward. Now at last our souls are free.
One of the visions that we've had from the start with Penn and New Musical is that it wouldn't just be, professional actors up on a stage sort of separated from everyone. We want to do this as a huge open-air concert, free to the public, and we want to create a mega choir of high schools, choral societies, synagogues, colleges, universities, and build this gigantic choir. So this is something that you don't only watch, it's something that you actually participate in. And we want that going forward. The idea is that Penn will be a professional piece. You can obviously hear we're putting in tremendous work to take it to the top artistic level. But my vision is that someday there will be, grade schoolers and high schoolers singing these songs. And because, can you think of any other teaching form where young people memorize it verbatim? Imagine it's 2014, and you did a survey of young people, and you said, how much can you tell me about Alexander Hamilton? And then you wait 1 year, and then you ask the same question. Now, I have reason to speak with. By the way, Amazing Grace was the only show in history that ever opened on Broadway in the same month as Hamilton. Talk about having the air sucked out of the room. But there's a powerful, powerful lesson there. Musical theater reaches into places you cannot anticipate. And musical theater is forever. There are young people all over the country, all over the world, who can quote Gilbert and Sullivan verbatim to you tonight. And that's because they're in the Mikado this weekend. Musical theater is forever. And all that we're doing is to create something timeless. And all these young people were involved in the creation of this, as they were in Amazing Grace. From the very beginning, way back, they were all involved, and the people that were students before them were involved in the actual creation of it, the decisions. And that's part of our vision. Faith and Liberty Discovery Center is our partner for this. And they are building a huge center right down on Independence Mall. It's going to be much more than a museum. It's going to be a place that reconnects America with the crucial issues that actually formed us the real earth-shaking questions of faith and doubt and difference and change and what's possible and what's not. And they're a great partner to have for this. They totally understand that the arts is something that you embrace and you pull people in, and it just grows over time. So, and I'll introduce some of the people from there too. But first, I want to introduce my old friend, our original John Newton, originated the role of John Newton on Broadway. Say hi to Josh Young. We go way back. I'm going to ask Josh and the choir to share with you a song called Philadelphia. This is basically Penn's vision of this place before it exists. And Philadelphia, of course, means brotherly love. There was a city in the Bible named Philadelphia. A lot of people don't realize that. And this song is about this crazy vision as it takes shape in his head.
The dream to rise above what we believed we all could be, not to forget the place we came from, but carry on to find our way unto a light upon a hill. A lamp of freedom shining true for all to see and to believe in, a light of hope breaking through. Philadelphia, Philadelphia, you are more than what you see. Winding road that we are on, and we perceive the times that we have chosen wrong, but we believe with every step we take together we will learn that our freedom is a privilege we must have.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. You guys can go ahead. Thanks again. Josh is from the Philadelphia area. He's actually came all the way from Michigan. Josh is taking over the musical theater. What's the university's name? Oakland University in Michigan. He's head of their musical theater department out there. So congratulations to Josh. He just moved there 4 days ago. So we snatched him back. Every time he thinks he's out, we pull him back in. But this is his area too. And the great thing about what we're doing is we really do use local talent. And we really do pull in people from all different disciplines. Theater is the most interdisciplinary of all of the arts because you've got music, lyrics, libretto. That's my part. I'm also a producer. But then you have everything from costume design, set design, orchestration, all sorts of non-arts like arts management, general management, company management. There's fundraising. There's all sorts of things. And it's such a chance for young people and older people too, because I started this later in life. I had a whole nother life. I was a police officer for years. And I found the story of John Newton, and it changed my life. And I spent a decade becoming a musical theater composer. Now, at the time, I didn't realize that you don't really do music, lyrics, and libretto at the same time. That makes producers very, very nervous. But I didn't know that, so ignorance is bliss. So I just decided to do them all. And my mentor, Arthur Jerome, came on board, and we created Amazing Grace, and that is how that got to Broadway. Now, I don't want this to be just a lecture, so I do want to have some give and take here. So if you have a question or anything, raise your hand. It's fine. But I just want to tell you in a nutshell what it is we're going to do. Because we have been working, like I say, we've been working with Faith and Liberty Discovery Center for more than a year, but we've actually been working on the show for only, about 6 months. And that's happened already. And that's just the part we can show you tonight. There's a whole background of research and, all sorts of writing and decisions that go into this. And here's why we need help, and here's why we need to do events like this. It's because in order to do the workshops and readings and rehearsals and all of the behind the scenes stuff that we need to do, it costs money. Obviously, it's a professional art form, and our vision isn't sort of to do this as even though don't let the fact that we use young people extensively make you think that this isn't a top level professional production. They are top-level professional people. Absolutely. A lot of different institutions kind of use young actors and writers, and they kind of use them as pawns, like you stand here and say this and sing this and that kind of stuff. That's not our vision at all. We want it to be an actual process where the work actually grows as we do it. So we want to do workshops in Bucks. We want to do inner city workshops. We want to reach out to the far suburbs. We want to be out to Lancaster. We want to pull in a really wide group of people and watch this thing grow. Let me tell you why I'm excited about William Penn. William Penn had one of those lives that if I tried to write it as fiction, the editor would just bounce it. He'd be like, come on, who's going to believe that? That's crazy. That's nuts. This is a man who did his best work in prison. I mean, who really conceived of things that were so outside the norm that they locked him up for it. It was dangerous what he was saying. They locked him up, I think it was 7 times total, because they had to shut him up. What he was saying was dangerous and was completely new in the world. A lot of us think that democracy sort of came from Athens, like the ancient Greeks and stuff like that. That was an oligarchy. That was a bunch of rich guys. When you talk about actually doing things like going to the Lenni Lenape Indians and treating them as human beings, That was William Penn. And now things really fell apart after that. But people were not comfortable with he was not just going and like talking with them and having a good time, you know, and like negotiating treaty. He was like playing their games. He was like doing running races and wrestling with them. You can imagine what the British aristocracy thought of that. And he basically said, well, look, what if we bring in just everybody? I mean, let's let Huguenots and Jews and, you know, Muslims, everybody, let's just let everybody in, and we'll just let them believe whatever they want. It sounded like anarchy, and a lot of our show is about the struggle of the entrenched people within the British system as they realized that this cat was not going to go back in the bag. So we start with Hannah and that moment of decision, and we flash back to William Penn in a trial. He's in his trial. And it's one of these songs where it's, you know, just going back and forth, and it's combative, and you just have no idea where it's going to go. And what actually happened, the Lord Mayor, who was also the prosecutor, presented his case, and the jury said, no, we think he's innocent. So he imprisoned the jury. That's true, he locked them up. So now William is in jail with the jury, and it is here that people start to understand that this guy is not just crazy, he's got a true vision. And it was only after his father died that the crown said, okay, let's sort of get rid of him. He was friendly. I mean, he was one of them. He was an aristocrat, right? But his dad really desperately wanted him to go into the House of Lords, and he just wouldn't do it. I mean, he was a Quaker. He was a pacifist. His dad was an admiral, you know? So that the admiral's son is now this pacifist Quaker who believes all these wild things and wants everybody to believe whatever they want. And they sort of go to get rid of him. His vision for Philadelphia was not just of a society. He planned the widths of the streets. The layout of the town was all done because he had this vision, and he could do whatever he wanted. All this land was his. This was once William Penn's land. And he came out with these ideas, for the Native Americans, and he got in tremendously hot water at one point because in America, because slavery was legal in all of the colonies, and as later in the American Civil War, they defended it by saying it was in the Bible. They said, well, slavery's in the Bible, so, it's fine. Well, William Penn, after years of really kind of equivocating on this, got hauled aside by a gentleman named Pastorius. And when I was a kid, I played in Pastorius Park. Pastorius Park is a park in Chestnut Hill, Pennsylvania. And I used to play. I never knew who he was. He pulled William aside and basically, verbally slapped him around or whatever and said, this is crazy. You're being fair to everyone except people that are just here because they're African and they got taken. So William decides, first thing he did was he went into his will and he ordered that all his slaves would be freed upon his death. And then he went to the legislature and he said, all right, guys, he didn't say it exactly like that, I'm paraphrasing. He said, all right, guys, listen, if you want to say that slavery is biblical, then you have to do it the biblical way. Does anybody know how slavery was done in the Bible? After 7 years, you read the Old Testament, after 7 years, they were all liberated. They were free. It's year of Jubilee. 7 years of slavery, and then you're free. And he introduced legislation to that effect. And he even said, I will take my own personal land, and we will set it aside, and we'll call it Freetown, and all of the liberated slaves will go and live. It's actually not that far from here, where he wanted to do it. They went nuts. They went crazy. They were like a pitchfork crowd. They threw him out. They defamed him. They defamed his son. So this is a real struggle for this man, and it took a toll on him. And the reason he had a stroke at all was because it ruined his health. But as he was going on and having these tremendous struggles, he did one thing that would be the key, and he didn't know it at the time, and that is he passed it on. He passed the vision on to Hannah. And Hannah was like the smart one. She was like the organized one. She was the one that realized, the practical problems of this. So when the Lord Mayor comes to her and gives her that decision, it is a true gut-wrenching decision. She really can get her fortune back. She really can get her reputation back. So at the end of our meeting, here, I'll ruin it for you. I'll go to the end. There's so many things that happen in the show, and we'll do Q&A, and you can ask questions. But we go through the entire show, and we come back to that point where she's there. She has the quill in her hand. She has the paper and the quill, and the quill's in his hand, and she's holding it. And we come back to the present, and he dies. And he goes out to the assembled guests, and he says, he's gone. The great man is dead. And the Lord Mayor approaches her, and she has the scroll in her hand. And he looks down, and he can see that she signed it. She did it. And he says to her, Hannah, you're doing the right thing. And she says, I know. And she tears it in front of him. And she leaves it at his feet and walks away. And that's sort of our theatrical moment of showing that one act of defiance by the person who really probably saw this a lot clearer than anybody else, that moment made the communities we know, as imperfect as they are, and with all the struggles we have, and the experiment still is a struggle. But her choice to embrace that vision changed everything. She went on to be the acting proprietor of Pennsylvania for many, many years. She was a governor of a colony way before any other female governors in the colonies. And she also had to fight for that. And we have to fight. Look, art is a struggle. There's a book a while back called The War of Art. And it's not a real laugh-a-minute book. It's about the struggle of making art out of nothing. And that's what we do. We take ideas, raw ideas, and we try to put them into something that will make people cry, make people laugh, that'll resonate, so that the next generation will understand this man and his simple faith and his simple questions that changed everything. I want to open up for questions. We do have, let me just show you. Where's my little, oh, there it is. I'll show you this. We don't have many of these, but we do have a few. This is our, we have a PowerPoint that I made there. There's William in prison. That's our art, done by Tucker Rodkey, local artist from Delaware County. We do have a few. We only have 15 of these, but this is what we use to sort of share our vision with partners and funders. And basically, what we have to do to keep the project going and to keep working with the young people, to keep working with the professionals, we need to raise $75,000 to do this next phase, which is the entire summer. Now, Faith and Liberty Discovery Center already put in $100,000. And then we have a couple who very generously put in $25,000 recently. But like I say, these things are expensive. So what we're trying to do is connect with the few people who can come together and raise that money that we need to keep going now. And someday we will be hopefully on that lawn. Hopefully it'll be right on Independence Mall. How great would it be to be right where these events actually happened? And we want, over time, we would love this to develop into a William Penn Day. You believe there's no William Penn Day? We got holidays for like pretty much everybody. But in Pennsylvania, there's no William Penn Day. We don't celebrate them the way we should. We want to change that, and we want to grow that through telling this emotional story that's going to resonate. Does anybody have any questions? Anybody want to know anything about what we're doing? Anyone? Questions, thoughts, profundities? This is going to be short.
Is your vision to take the Broadway career?
It's my vision to take it to Broadway. I would love to take it to Broadway. If we did, it would probably not be an open-ended run like some of the other shows. It would probably be a limited run. It would be a preview of Philadelphia. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It would be a preview. No, look, for me, and this was true even for Amazing Grace, a lot of theater writers look at New York as a destination. I looked at it as a waypoint. The kind of material we're doing, positive, uplifting, challenging stuff, it does have a limited market on Broadway. It's just not what critics like. So I would love to get there, and I would love to sort of plant a flag in the ground and say, hey guys, this is what, this is how your culture actually happened. So we'd like that, but it probably wouldn't be forever. It would probably be one of those 4 months. Amazing Grace was on Broadway for 4 months. And we're very blessed and very thankful that we were able to do it. And like I say, it was our Bucks County investors that made that possible. Now, Amazing Grace was a for-profit production. This is not. This is a non-profit production. And we're starting right from the start as that. So everybody has their expectations that, this is not something we're, all going to retire on. This is something that we're all going to give the very best of what we have, and it will go on and be our legacy. And for posterity, this is what we will have done. I can't tell you, there's not many legacies that people actually stand up and cheer for. Seriously. But I'll tell you, Amazing Grace plays down in Washington, D.C. It'll play there this weekend. People actually weep. One of the things that happened at Amazing Grace on Broadway, some of you, I'm sure, saw this if you were there, but this is really strange, and I'd heard it reported to me first, and then I actually saw it, was total strangers from different parts of the theater hugging one another. This is New York City. This is crazy. I mean, the fact that a New Yorker would ever touch another New Yorker willingly, except that they bumped into them in the subway, but it really happened, and I saw it several times. People that I knew weren't from the same place, hugging each other. People of different races. It was like, wow, what's going on? People weeping, grown men. One of my favorite things for Amazing Grace was you could always tell the guy that was dragged there by his wife. And the show was a guy show. It was geared to be a guy show. It was to be challenging in that way. And it had a father-son story like Penn does, and it landed like a ton of bricks on the guys. And you would see the wife, and the guy would be weeping, like hunched over weeping, and the wife's, got her hand on his back, like it's going to be okay. And he's, crying in public. He's probably mortified. But it's a very cleansing thing to be able to look at someone's life and say, you know what? That is moving enough that I don't care how I'm being perceived. Yeah, that really is moving. And that's how I want it to be for Penn. This is a gentleman that really gave everything. He gave everything. And he wasn't just it's not like he was, just a preacher or just an entrepreneur or a landlord. He was all of them, He actually invented the idea of, philanthropic entrepreneurism, and that was his thing. Yeah, he was a businessman. And it worked. It broke him personally, but it created the culture that we live in. So that was a long answer to the Broadway question. Is that okay? Did I answer 3 or 4 other questions? Anybody else? Anything you want to know? Because I'm sure I forgot something. Even people from the team, tell me what I forgot to say. Yes? Yep. Oh, okay, so there'll be 8 principal characters, and of them, 2 or 3 will probably be actual Broadway actors. And then the rest of that 8 will be local talent, sort of either the rising stars or the local heroes. I'd like the choir to be 300 to 500 people. We've actually done that before. We did a show down in Lynchburg. We did a version of Amazing Grace that had a 500-person choir and a symphony orchestra. And that's what we'd like to do. That number keeps growing, by It does, yeah. More and more people. Yeah. I'm just getting anything I can get. Anything. By the way, this is Josh Glacken. Josh is from Faith and Liberty Discovery Center. He's the one. He's the one that is the keeper of those little books. So, if you or someone you know is interested in participating with us, definitely see him. Get one of those books. His contact information is on there. Somebody in this room either is or knows somebody who could help make this a reality. And that's what we need to make this grow. And I want to be respectful of your time, so I'll let you go. If there are any other questions, please ask them, come around and ask us. And Matt's here, Joe's somewhere. Where is he? He's out there. He's hanging out with the choir people. Pat Murdoch here runs the Faith and Liberty Discovery Center operation together with Alan Crippen, way back there. By the way, Alan is the one that came up with the idea of doing a musical about William Penn. I actually went, this is the first time this ever happened in the history of musical theater. I actually went in and I said, I really want to do a musical with you guys. I think it'd be great. I think it's exactly what you need. I think you need this in the arts. What do you want to do a musical about? And I've never heard it. And Alan said, William Penn, definitely. William Penn. And even I didn't know a lot about him. I said, give me a week. I went and I did the research and I came back and I said, you're right. That is a great story. And there he is on top of a building. And we hardly know him. We hardly know him. So and Teresa, I'm sorry, there's Teresa over there. Sorry, Teresa's not standing up. Teresa Harder is on the funding team also, so definitely see her. And is there anybody else I'm missing? Anyway, we want to talk to you, and we want your ideas, and thank you very much. Thanks for coming.